By the way, I have close to, I'd say upwards of 30 pieces of paper like this, and pads of paper like this with just notes on them that I write during the day because I don't want to lose this stuff. Hi, I'm back. And so I jot it on a little piece of paper, or I type it into the notes on my iPhone, which is not easy, but it comes in handy. I actually wrote an entire chapter of my novel on the notes in my iPhone because I'd been writing one night, and I was just banging away on the keys, and I started to get tired, and I was like, all right, I got to stop. And I immediately went to bed. And that's never a good idea for me because whatever I have going in my head is still playing when I go to bed. So then I'm thinking about the last scene that I had in my novel, and I'm thinking about where the characters were going and what was happening. And it started to play out what was going to happen next. And I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to grab my laptop and bring it into bed and turn it on and wake up my wife and do that whole thing. So instead, I just reached over to my nightstand, grabbed my iPhone, popped open the notes, and intended to just write some notes down about where I was going with that next chapter. Didn't work out that way. It just kind of started coming out like my writing normally does, and next thing I knew, I had this huge freaking note that I had to email myself from my iPhone. But for me, having those tools around as a writer is really important. If I don't have those tools around, then I'm going to lose stuff. When inspiration strikes, it doesn't stick around. The idea that I have in my head will be gone. I might have fragments of it, almost like a dream. You wake up and you remember your dream, and then the more your morning goes on, the less of your dream you can remember until finally you're like, oh, shit, what the fuck did I dream? I had the weirdest dream, and I have none of it in my head now. Same thing will happen with my writing. If I don't have a way to get it out of here, then it's going to be gone. And that would bum me out because I get myself really excited when I start thinking about something and it starts flowing like that. So that's a little peek into my process and how I write. I typically I don't outline. I don't put things together like, okay, I know I want to go here and here and here and here. What'll happen with me is I'll get a scene that's here, and I'll have already written this. So I'll write this scene note-wise. I'll scribble it out on little pieces of paper, and then I'll be like, okay, I want to get to that point. So that's my motivation, is I have to get from here to over here where I want to be because I got this really cool idea, so I have to fill in that gap. And a lot of my writing works that way in these, really marathon kind of sessions of, okay, I want to get to this point, but to get to this point, I have to fill in all this blank. And along the way, a lot of time along the way, as I'm going towards here, I'll be going, and then there'll be a new idea, and then it'll tangent a little bit, and then things will change, and then it'll meander around, and then I'll end up getting to the point I wanted to get to and having to rework it because I liked what I was doing back here better. But for me, that's the fun of writing. That's the journey that you go on as a writer, where you allow your characters and your story to speak to you. I often say that I let my characters dictate the story more than I do. If I'm fleshing out a character enough, and if that character, in my mind, is a living, breathing character, and he or she's real, then they're going to tell me where they want to go next. They're going to decide where they want to go next. You'll hear me do this a lot because I'm fascinated with how other writers go about their process. And I'm fascinated, like I said earlier, with Stephen King. And I read once where he was talking about writing Salem's Lot and how he was going to have the vampires win in Salem's Lot. It wasn't going to be a happy ending, and there really wasn't going to be a hero. And he said, but the more he was writing it, the more the character of Ben decided he wanted to be a hero. And, Stephen King, to stay true to that character, couldn't really force him into not being a hero. If the character wanted to be a hero, then that's how the character was going to be. I try to have the same philosophy in my own writing. Let's see, what did I want to do next? I'm such a fucking nerd. I actually wrote down little notes, another stupid yellow piece of paper, with where I wanted to go with talking about this. Let's see. Another thing that's really important to me in this whole process is the marketing and promotions. If you're an independent guy in any way, or girl, if it's comics, if it's, prose, if it's poetry, if it's illustration. It doesn't matter. If you're doing something independently, if you're starting out, if you're an amateur, um, you know, if you have dreams and goals of doing this professionally, being published, any of those types of things, one of the biggest things you have to do is be a wicked ass self promoter. I mean, you have to be tireless. I tell people, um, when people actually ask my advice about this business, like I'm really in it or something. I'm fringe at best, but I do have people ask my advice. You know, I'm just starting out. You know, do you have any advice? And I tell them, yeah. When your book is made, the work begins. A lot of people think that, you know, they're going to write a book, they're going to write a comic strip, they're going to illustrate a comic strip, whatever, and then it's going to find an audience on its own. Um, that's not the case. If you make something and leave it out there, no one's going to find it. You know, it's not going to do anything. It doesn't. It's like planting a garden. Go outside and plant some seeds. That's great. Is that shit gonna grow? No. You know, you have to weed it. You have to take care of it. You have to constantly be tending to it. Um, Growing a comics career from the ground up is the exact same thing.